This is a battle cry for the American way of life and a relentless pursuit of truth and justice. It comes from a voice with unmatched experience and unyielding resolve. Join us as we dissect current events and tip the scales in your favor. This is Rally for the Republic with your host, Bryan Rudnick.
Welcome to Rally for the Republic. I'm your host, Bryan Rudnick, still on the road, on the Freedom Trail throughout New England, but I made sure to schedule a special guest, Bianca Gracia, friend of mine from Texas, who has a lot of great insights into what's going on here in America to help save our republic. Bianca, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Bryan. Thank you for having me on. I'm honored to be here with you.
Well, I appreciate you making the time. I know you were very busy last week at the Republican convention, so I'm glad now that you're back home in Texas, we could schedule the interview. Could you please tell the Rally for the Republic audience a little bit about yourself and what you do every day?
So, that's a loaded question, Bryan. I am the president of the Latinos for Trump organization. I'm the executive director of Latinos for America First. We've been operating as Latinos for America First because, we haven't had our president in the White House in the last 4 years. So we kind of pivoted over, but we are the originals that were pretty much, founded this Latino movement for Trump since 2016. And so I run these organizations, I run a PAC, and, we are here to wake up the Hispanic community into voting conservatively. And I think we have made huge strides in the last 8 years. I knew it was a long-term, project, initiative, whatever you want to call it. I knew it was going to be long term. It wasn't going to be short term. Everybody thinks election cycles are like, we'll just come around, 6 months to 3 months before election, and we think we've got the voters. Well, in order to wake up a community that really technically hasn't been voting, or if they have, they've been voting for the other side. So we've been focusing on education, voter registration, a lot of education, feeding Border Patrol agents. I mean, we've done a lot of rallies for the president. We've done RV tours. We started the Trump trains originally out of McAllen in 2020 and May of 2020, when we were locked down in COVID, trying to figure out ways of how to get people and get out the vote. So we've done a lot, Bryan. And so I'm leading, I'm one of the leaders in obviously leading the PAC, right? In this whole movement, and we continue to work hard.
Well, clearly you're doing great work, because recent polling before the historic change this weekend, showed that Biden and the Democrats were losing support amongst Latino voters. Clearly your efforts have proven to make a difference. Mm-hmm. Could you get a little bit more detailed about how you're engaging with Latino voters? What kind of discussions are you having? What are their concerns?
So, Bryan, it was, I'll just go back a little bit let me go back to 2016 as we co-founded this whole movement, is that we didn't have a platform. We didn't have podcasts. We didn't have, and I'm talking about on the conservative end, we didn't really have leaders that were voices out there to the community. We didn't have airwaves. We were not in the papers. We were not in the media, and the media is pretty much very left wing. So all of the talking points that came from a Hispanic perspective were coming from the left wing. And so I said in 2016, if you just give Hispanics, a platform, if you give us on the airwaves, if you let people in our community visibly see us speaking on conservative issues, then they will follow. And that is why you're seeing the shift, because those are the kind of things that we've been able to accomplish. We've been able to be on the airwaves. We have bought commercials. We have bought newspaper ads in regions that, pretty much no one ever messages to Hispanics. And this is why, we tell them in English and Spanish, why you are conservative. We are conservative because we are very pro-life, pro-family, and we love the country. We've got a work ethic like no other. This country was built on, the Hispanic workforce. We contribute. This was, kind of one of those things last year that we started messaging, into the Hispanic community. We said we contribute $3.4 trillion a year into the economy. This is how much buying power we have. And we can't elect people. So this is what I ask our community. So when we go out into the barrios, into the, areas where no one really goes and messages, we don't care if we talk to 5 moms, 2 moms, because those 2 to 5 moms then, and dads, families, they grow into 30 families. And then those 30 families are left behind, more knowledgeable, with more wisdom, and they start talking to the rest of their families and the rest of their friends and their comadres and things of the sort. And so, this is, it's having the conversation, having the very hard conversations, because traditionally Hispanics have voted Democrat because it's how they were raised. They didn't know any better. They didn't know that they were voting for things that they don't agree with.
Is it because Donald Trump is as racist as the media claims?
That's what they were. That's what the fear was in 2016. The mainstream media did a very good job, very good hit pieces on him to say that he was going to deport everyone if you were of a certain skin color. They were calling him Hitler. I mean, it was horrific. And so they didn't know any better because this is what they heard on the news and this is what they portrayed him to be. And it was up to people like me and many others to start messaging and saying, no, this guy is not who he is. Listen, Amber Rose just stood at the RNC convention last week and she said she believed what the mainstream media told her and that he was a racist. And she said her dad was like, he's not a racist. And what did she say? Until I investigated myself and started to research because I was trying to prove my dad wrong, I myself found out he was not racist. And she's like, and so once she found out what those policies were that Trump was championing, this America First, Agenda 47, she said it's a no-brainer. It's a no-brainer for any American at this point, Bryan. Honestly, we're not even really talking about the Democrat-Republican Party. We're just talking about an American and a non-American now. And at this point in time, that is really what we are fighting for, is America. We are all American.
Is it fair to say that Hispanic Americans are living in America, in the United States of America, because they are America First citizens?
Well, we still have a lot of work to do, Bryan. Not all of them can tell you that. Not all of them will say that. But, if you take Trump out of the equation and you say, okay, what do you care about? Well, I care about work. I care about being able to pay my bills. They're the basic quality of life, right? They just want a basic quality of life. They want to make sure that their kids are well educated, that they're, become more successful. Every parent wants their kid to be more successful than they were. And so, when you talk about those values, they don't, they love God. And so when you talk about those things in the quality of life, good water, resources, safe streets, they want to make sure that their kids can actually play outside and not get, run over, that they've got a good infrastructure. These are basic quality of life. When you start to talk about them and you remove Trump and then you start to tell them, well, these quality of life, and you start comparing the Democrat cities to the Republican led cities, and you see that the quality of life is different. And it's how you run your cities. And so they're starting to, we have work to do because, Bryan, you have to connect those dots. Right. So Trump it's a message at the high level, and he's messaging what he's offering. Right. And it's our job to carry that message out. But it's our job even to remove him out and saying, look, we are Latinos for America first. What does America first mean? A good quality of life. And who brings that to you? Well, they haven't completely connected the dots, but they're connecting the dots now because they've been living under this Biden catastrophe administration where we have inflation, gas prices are up. But even when I'm out on the road, and if I just stop at this is me. I'm at the grocery store. I'll make conversation conversation with whoever it is. I'll ask questions. Oh, I see their grocery, basket that's not very full. And I'm like, is that what you normally buy or, whatever. And so I'll start a conversation with them and, and that's how we get started, Bryan. So I connect dots for people. I'm like, yeah, I'll kind of make it like this, Bryan. I'll be like, oh, I know it's not popular to talk about this, but when Trump was president, brisket wasn't $120. It was $60, for a brisket. And that's something you hit them on real quick. It's like, oh my God, yeah, you're right. And so connecting the dots, and you got to connect those dots. And it's like, oh yeah, I remember gas prices were $2, a dollar something, or $2.39. Now it's $3.29, $3.79, $4, $5. And they're just like, whatever. So I was on a tour and I would talk to people at the rest stops and at the gas stations. And I specifically talked to the Spanish speaking people, and they would tell me, yeah, it's hard times. And, and I said, do you understand? Do you vote? And some of them would tell me no. I'm like, you don't vote? And I'm like, do you know what the importance of voting is? And so I have to school them on voting. And I'm like, do you know that this is why you're struggling? Because you don't vote and you haven't voted for good people to give you a good quality of life. And so you have to connect those dots. So those are the conversations that we're still having, Bryan, because there's so many masses of people out there that are just not paying attention. They're not watching Fox News or CNN. They're not watching MSNBC. They're not watching NBC. They might watch their local news.
Well, I think we're okay that they're not watching MSDNC.
Well, true. But they're watching their local news, and their local news is spitting out what the bigger news station is spitting out. So we have to make sure that we're continuing in those communications.
You are listening to Rally for the Republic with your host, Bryan Rudnick.
So you mentioned you're traveling, you're trying to connect the dots. Where do you spend the most amount of your time trying to connect those dots? In what states?
So we spend a lot of time in Texas, in Florida, obviously because of the large minority population, right? We need to find leaders that carry out the message. We spend time in Arizona. We've gone to Pennsylvania. We've gone to Milwaukee. We've gone to Georgia. Obviously we've hit the swing states tremendously, but we are also now hitting states like Colorado, where no one goes and talks to those people, right? And they've been Democrat forever. And so we're trying to activate the Hispanic base there, because once you start talking to them about the quality of life and you start talking to them about the conservative issues and the policies, it's a no-brainer. They're like, oh, well, that's what we believe in. Well, great. Then you're like us. And, they're like, wait, but they think Republican word is a bad word. And so, and that's where we're at. So we hit a lot of those, New York, New Jersey. We've got leaders in New York and New Jersey. We've got people that, look, New York is like, not there. We've got people in California. No one ever paid attention to California, and so we are still having conversations, Bryan, even in places where no one goes and has conversations. My goal has been since 2016 is, a party, they're going to go hit the places that they're going to hit, right? Those swing, they always concentrate on the swing states. I like to concentrate in the swing states, but I like to concentrate on the areas that the party will not go to because they deem it as a lost cause. I like to flip those counties. I like to go and narrow the gaps. That's what I like.
I congratulate you for thinking like that, because not enough of us do.
Well, and we have to, because we have to grow the party. Look, if we just continue in the mentality of doing the things the same way and thinking we're going to get, a different result, we're not. That's the definition of insanity. So we have to already I'm looking 10 years forward. I want to make sure that we are messaging and creating a generation of conservatives for future generations, so that when I'm gone, my kid and their kids they know they're solidly conservative, and they're going to continue carrying on what mama did, grandma did. And that's my goal. I'm not here for a 3-month, hey, let's flip the switch and go get out the vote. I want to create a generation of conservatives in the Hispanic community that they never forget, Bryan, that they never forget they're conservative, and that they start showing up to the polls, and that they carry on because they want a good quality of life. They don't want, crime-ridden cities. They don't want, they want good education. They want to always have a job so they can provide and we have an entrepreneurship mind in our culture. We had under Trump, listen, this is another talking point. Under Trump, we had the fastest growing Latina owned businesses, small businesses in the country. We were surpassing everybody, and the Latinas were debt free. So Trump and his, administration was concentrating on offering small business loans to Latinas so they could expand their businesses and hire people and create more jobs in their communities. That's a no-brainer, Bryan. That's a no-brainer. I use that all the time.
So let me ask you, you mentioned, quality of life is the top issue, right? Mm-hmm. And having a better future for children, which is something most American parents
exactly
want, right? Yeah. Regardless of skin color, regardless of country of origin.
Right.
So a lot of times in the Republican Party, one of the concepts, we talk about two major concepts in messaging that things fall from. One being American exceptionalism, which the America First agenda is kind of built on. It's also got the other leg of the American dream. Mm-hmm. Right. And people have migrated. I'm from Florida, so I know lots of Hispanic Americans who came here who are hardworking people, mm-hmm. who want to contribute to the country, yes. who want to be a part of that. You find, do those concepts using those phrases resonate when you're messaging in the Latino community, or are you having to use some other specialized phrase?
No, those they resonate. They absolutely resonate. Listen, I will even go this far out. Because listen, the thing is that Hispanics, since no one was really messaging to them, right? It's like a few, it's like you grab a few as you would go every election cycle. But Trump, there's one thing that Hispanics resonate with Trump beyond the quality of life and beyond that American dream. He is a fighter. Okay, our culture loves boxing, MMA, luchas. I grew up on it. Friday nights, my dad would take us to go see the people that covered their face with a mask and they wrestled inside. I mean, that was our Friday night. We were like, we would love these characters, and it was like WWE.
So Hispanics love brawlers, huh?
We love it. And so here's the thing: Trump was although it's been tough and difficult because our people were told he was a racist and he was a Nazi and he was a Jew. I mean, not a Jew. I'm sorry, a Hitler, and he was going to deport everybody if you were a certain skin color. And it was crazy. It was madness. What they realized in 4 years of his term is that this man was continuously being beat down on narratives, indictments, accusations from women, the impeachments. I mean, the news would consistently try to take him down. And you saw him get right back up, and he just pushed forward and he plowed forward. And the 10 things, he gave us 10 priorities he was going to do while he was in the White House. And he completed every single one of them. So what Hispanics love is the fighter that gets right back up and fights back. So I called Trump in 2019. I said, Trump is our luchador. He's that guy that wears that mask, the mil máscaras, and you can hit him and uppercut him and jab him and, knock him out. But when he gets back up from that knockout, Trump is going to come at you 10 times harder, and you will be the one that's knocked out. That is the fighting spirit that resonates with our communities. Forget they can now move over from the quality of life and go, man, we just love that guy because he freaking fights. That was one of the things early on in 2017 when I got hired by the Republican Party. I did a listening tour. I called it DMEC, Come Tell Me. And I asked questions from Hispanics. Are you, first of all, we're not talk, even though I work for the party, but we weren't talking party. We were talking about if you vote, don't vote, why you vote, don't vote, if you like Trump, because this was very early on, why do you not vote Republican? Things of these questions. That from all the cities that I toured, Bryan, the resonating message that came out from every Hispanic city that I went to was they didn't vote Republican because Republicans had no backbone and they didn't fight. That people.
So it wasn't the border wall. It wasn't border security that was stopping Latino Americans from voting.
No. They said they don't fight back. So they said the Democrats, they can literally murder somebody and they all still together. They stay together. They're like together and they push forward. They say they didn't murder somebody or, oh, forgive them. They were defending themselves, whatever it is, whatever their narrative, but they stick together and they push forward and they don't take anything. Right. And they just plow forward. They said, Republicans, y'all get attacked and y'all are like, oh, well, you pull out the little card of, the politically correct thing because we are supposed to be above everything. But that doesn't always win when you're fighting with evil. Okay. You got to go toe to toe with these people. And Trump has been able to go toe to toe with almost everyone. People within our own party. He's gone toe to toe with the media. He's gone toe to toe with foreign leaders. He's gone toe to toe with the Democrats. He has gone toe to toe with everyone. And that is what resonates in the Hispanic community, is to see the fighter. This is why you see Dana White now. Look, he spoke at the Republican National Committee. The same thing. Resonating. Fighters. What does he do? He's an MMA. He does this MMA. They love him. Listen how the crowd roars when he walks into those facilities. They love him. They resonate because he's a fighter. This is what people are upset about right now, Bryan. They are upset in this MAGA movement that the Republicans in the last 4 years have pretty much just bend over, taken it, and just they don't fight back. They're mad at Mike Johnson now because he doesn't fight back. He's allowed them to send more money to Ukraine. Instead of, what about our own Americans? What about our veterans? We're not taking care of our own, Bryan. And so this is what Trump has said from the beginning. We need to take care of America first, and then.
So let's, we've only got a few more minutes left in today's episode. So I want to make sure to cover some very specific ground that's, related to the work you're doing and not just on Trump, but obviously you're trying to push Trump forward and push our country forward.
Absolutely.
We're grateful for that. So as you're working out in the very states you mentioned, do you have specific goals of voter registration you're trying to achieve, or specific? And could you elaborate on that, as well as maybe the amount of votes you're trying to move? So
we are now 8 years later. We have done the awakening, waking people up, educating, messaging. We're on platforms. We got podcasts, we got radios, we got paper. Now we're laser focusing on the precincts that have Hispanics that are maybe low propensity, that, maybe have shown up once or twice. We're focusing on those precincts in pretty much the battleground states. I've chosen 4 cities: Houston, Atlanta, Chicago, Bronx in New York. We're also focusing on Pennsylvania and possibly now Milwaukee. And we continue to focus on, obviously, in Nevada, right? We've got the south of Phoenix is where we're focusing. So what I'm doing is now we're doing voter registration, and we're recruiting poll workers. Okay. We have to recruit poll workers. So we are people that are going to work the elections in November. So those are our 2 things. Our second thing is we are trying to do whatever we can to affect and change the culture. And we're using artists to help us message that change for the people who are still tough on, we don't like, Republicans or whatever. We don't like Trump, whatever, they're still there. We are using the music, art. We're using, people who are in their celebrity status that can help us message to the younger generation, in coming over. And so we can register them to vote, as well as possibly even getting them activated to work in the election or get plugged in to a candidate of their choice in the Republican Party and help that candidate out.
That's really great.
That's what we're doing.
Do you, Rally for the Republic listeners have gotten used to me trying to provide very specific details for them, because obviously the work you're doing is very labor intensive. It's also very costly. So clearly, Rally for the Republic listeners should also make a donation to Latinos for America First to help you continue to succeed. But to make all this happen, do you happen to have at your fingertips there in your office, maybe some of the numbers of the votes you're trying to move in specific areas?
So I don't have it in front of me, but I do have the locations that I'm targeting. I do have what the voter turnout has been in the past. I do have the numbers of how many voters are there now, and population wise, I've done a lot of groundwork already, and I've gone and talked to. Listen, when I went block walking, I'll give you an example. When I went block walking for Herschel Walker, I took 30 Hispanics from the state of Texas to go work 2 weeks for Herschel Walker. And they send us out to block walk, in certain areas up north of Atlanta. I didn't care to talk to the people house to house. What I did is I went to the shopping centers and I worked with some faith leaders, and I said, take me to the barrio, the hood where people don't go. Went to the barber shops. I went to the grocery stores. And I went to some churches, and I went to restaurants, local restaurants, and I literally went in and literally had conversations with people. And I pulled over every time I'd see a cleaning crew, I'd pull them over. Every time I saw a yardman, I'd pull them over, and I had conversations with them. And I was there to gather intel from them. I said, where do you get your news from? Did you know that there's a runoff? Did you know that there's the people running for office? Do you vote? Can you vote? Does your family vote? Blah, blah, blah. I mean, I asked all kinds of questions. And the answer was, we don't even know there's a runoff. We didn't know that somebody was running. We kind of heard about it, but not really. And they said, nah, nobody ever comes and talks to us. I said, okay, well, at the time, it was like Stacey Abrams was talking about abortion or whatever. And I said, well, where you stand on this. So I was getting intel. The bottom line was this: they get their potential news from the radio. So I said, we're going to have to buy a lot of radio ads, because this is what they're listening to. They're out, the contractors and workers are out and about driving around. They're on, putting a roof together. They're building some house. They're doing.
And I imagine what people need to understand.
Yeah.
I apologize for interrupting you.
No.
Obviously, doing this kind of targeted work and outreach in these minority communities is more expensive, I would imagine, than regular cable and TV buys, and that's why your organization needs so much more money. Yeah,
correct, Bryan. Correct, because now we've gathered the intel. We know we've hit those places. We've targeted. We're like, okay, look, we know what the voter turnout is here, and it's low. Why? Because no one is talking to these people to go vote. So that is what I am targeting.
Kamala says everybody only cares about abortion.
Well, they don't. They really don't. Listen, I found out when I went to Milwaukee and I walked in the hood with Lil' Kim. Okay. Lil' Kim got great gold teeth, and Lil' Kim and his little gangster friends that are in and out of jail. We walked. I said, we're going to get shot out here. And they said, we all right. We all right, Miss Bianca. They took me, we went out to lunch. We went to the police station. We went to a drug, alcohol rehab center. I talked to these people on the ground. I said, what is your number one concern? What is it that, and they said, you know what our number one concern is in this community, in their little, really poor driven community where gangs are killing each other. They said it's the abandoned buildings. I said, I'm sorry, wait, what? You mean you don't care about abortion? Or what about, they said, why doesn't anybody turn these abandoned buildings into locations that we can get job training, we can learn how to fill out an application, where we can go and provide community services to people? They said, we get, they took me, there was abandoned buildings. It was crazy. Like literally, they said, we have homeless people out here. Why can't we open up these abandoned buildings? And so their number one thing in Milwaukee was abandoned buildings. And so here we are thinking it's abortion. It could be the open border. But again, Bryan, you got to understand what the quality of life is in these locations. What is going to get them out to vote, right? So in Arizona, I went into South Phoenix where nobody goes. Okay. Nobody's talked to these people but the Democrats. I have conversations and they're not liking it because all they're used to is Democrats. And so I find out that they will come out and vote if somebody they said, we'll vote for whoever. They said, we'll vote if they can take care of the chicken problem we have. I said, wait, what? Chicken problem? Because there's chickens running around everywhere, Bryan, they're outside their grocery stores, they're outside the shopping plazas, they're crossing the roads. This is not farm roads, this is city, okay? And they have a chicken problem. And the community, all they cared about is take care of this chicken problem. I said,
it's the old adage, all politics is local.
Well, exactly. And I said, so they didn't care about, even though their family, and all that good stuff, they did care about those things. But locally, their quality of life, I was like, I literally asked these people, I said, if you voted in the past, they said, yeah, we voted. Yeah, we voted. We vote Democrat. Okay, well, if this is happening and you've been complaining about it for how long now? 30 years? Why haven't you given anybody else a chance? No one ever asked them that, Bryan. I had a elderly man on a bicycle going to the grocery store, a lady that owned this like a little knick-knack shop that was pretty much going out of business. Somebody else that did the soles of the shoes, shoe store. And so I talked to these people and they said, I don't know why we've never voted for anybody else. I guess we didn't think about it. Nobody's asked us for our vote, but we would vote for somebody if they would take care of the chicken problem. So I said, this is insane. So when I gather this intel from all of these locations, Bryan, and I'm going to laser target on these people coming out to vote, guess what? I have the messaging that I know that I'm going to run ads in their local areas and connect dots to an America First, a better quality of life in your local.
Without chickens running around.
Without chickens running around. Listen, Trump is going to get it done because he's going to carry a ticket and you've got to vote all the way down and you've got a clean house because you want to clean your streets and you want better water. You want to take care of abandoned buildings. You want to put people back to work. You want to train the youth and you want to clean up your the chickens running around your streets. So, this is the thing that we have to do. It's not always the messaging that we think, and that's going to be the GOP's problem. Listen, they have Bryan, how much money have they raised? Millions. I don't have millions. Can you imagine?
30 million. Kamala raised 30 million yesterday.
Yeah. Can you imagine if someone like me would raise that kind of money, the damage I would do in these locations, the damage because I'd put radio ads on every day, 3 times a day.
Let's tell Rally for the Republic listeners your website so they can help.
LatinosForAmericaFirst.com is our PAC, and LatinosForAmericaFirst.org is our organization. So you can give to either one. Guys, we're doing the work, and we've got to save the Republic.
You are listening to Rally for the Republic with your host, Bryan Rudnick.
Let's make sure we get you to answer the question I like to ask all my guests.
Yes.
What do you believe is the number one problem and the number one threat facing our republic today?
The losing of our freedoms, communism. The Democrat Party is full-blown communist. They're full-blown communists. We're losing our rights. We're losing our medical freedoms. We're losing our parental rights. We're losing that freedom of speech, our rights, our God-given rights that were given to us by the United States Constitution and our founding fathers. Those rights we are losing that. And we are the last country around the world that's standing with these types of freedoms. This is why people are coming here. They're fleeing their own communist socialist countries to come here in groves. And so that's where we're at risk of losing it all. So
you've told the Rally for the Republic listeners about your story since 2016 and what motivated you to help President Trump. make our country great again.
Mm-hmm.
Is that when you first got involved in politics, or had you been involved previously? Could you give us a brief history of your political background?
That's very interesting. So when I was in college, I was born and raised a Democrat. Let me go back to that.
That's a pretty important fact.
I didn't really look at policy or anything. It was more of that's traditional for Hispanics. So that's why I understand the culture. I understand the mind, right? Because that was me. And so in college, I actually did like a little internship in college at getting out the vote for Ann Richards, who was running.
Sure.
She was the governor of Texas. She was tough, man. I don't think she'd fit in with the Democrat Party today. She was tough, but I was a Democrat, and so when the first time Obama ran, my mother, who is a long life Democrat, said we can no longer vote Democrat, and we said what? Why? And so we're 7 brothers and sisters, and my mom said we cannot vote. We just can't vote Democrat. We have to vote for it was McCain, and we thought my mom has lost her marbles. You know, she's probably got dementia. She doesn't know. She was on the news. She was watching everything. So, you know, she literally, arm wrestled us, and she made each and every single one of me and my brothers and sisters to go vote. And she called us every freaking day until we told her, yes, we voted. Did you vote for McCain? Yes, mother, we voted for McCain. The second time around, McCain doesn't win. She's like, got to vote for Romney. She was dead set that Obama was an antichrist. That she was dead set on it. This is a Hispanic Catholic woman. She's like, he's the antichrist. You have to vote for Romney. So we're like, this is what in the world? So okay, she's clearly now got dementia because she's sticking to her guns. So here she was. Romney comes. She's like, you got to vote. She called us every day, made sure we went to vote. Yes, mother, we voted. We voted Romney. Yes, we voted Republican, blah, 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 straight ticket. Yes, get off our backs. So here comes Trump, and she's like, oh, I don't like him. And I said, well, you liked McCain and Romney. What's wrong with this guy? She's like, oh, he's too abrasive. She goes, oh, but Hillary. She said, she's a woman. And I said, Mom, are you kidding me? Like, seriously? So the Catholic Church, it was in cahoots with the Democrats, but probably still in some places are. They literally had signage around the Catholic Church that said Hillary was pro-life. And so my mother is in the hair industry. And so she sees all the clients, right? Everybody talks, that's where everything goes down in that seat. And so, and growing up, I know it, right? So anyway, I had to show her the YouTube video of Hillary Clinton talking about abortion past birth. And I said, you can't call me a liar, Mother. You watch that video and you tell me. And she's like, what? She's like, what? She's like, but it says she's pro-life. I'm like, well, they're lying to you. And so she literally told every single person who would sit at her chair, she didn't like Trump, but she said, Hillary wants to kill our babies past the womb. We're 7 brothers and sisters. You couldn't get my mom to have an abortion. So, my mom was like, I don't like him, but whatever. I guess she just kind of held her nose and she went and pulled the trigger and voted. And so, when Trump won, though, and he was talking about creating jobs when he was running the first time in 2016. Well, the Republican Party, I hadn't worked in 10 years, and the Republican Party called me and hired me as their first Latina Hispanic engagement director in the whole state of Texas. My mother was telling everybody in the world that her daughter was a cheerleader for Trump, and I had gotten a job, and she was so proud of me because I was educated and I had been a stay-at-home mom, and she didn't like that I was a stay-at-home mom. She wanted me to go to work. So she was ecstatic, and she was like, well, I may not like Trump, but he gave my daughter a job. That's what she thought, right? So to her, it was, he hung the moon. I was finally at a job, and I was over the state of Texas. Like, what mom wouldn't be proud of that, right? So all of her customers that they were born, raised Democrat, right? This is a very Democrat stronghold little town that I'm from. And all her customers were like, you tell Bianca that if she ever comes and runs for office, we're voting for her. They didn't care, Bryan, if I was Democrat, Republican. They just loved that Bianca had a job. They knew my mother. They knew her work ethic. So they were just happy. But then my mom said, hey, all the ranchers and farmers around here, they love Trump. I said, well, because he has better policies. So, be what it be. That is my story. That is how I myself got converted. It was my mother. This is why I know that the Latina moms, this is why I recruit a lot of Latina moms, because we are the game changers and the history makers. We are the people that can move the neck in our households. The man is a man, but we have a voice in the household. We may not be the figurehead of the household, but we can move the neck of our husbands and move a lot of things. So I always, because I grew up in a hair salon, I always go to barber shops and I go to hair salons. I do a lot of my politicking in hair salons and barber shops. And that's why I hit the barber shops when I was in Georgia, because that's where these people, it's like Trump is now saying, what, no tips on taxes? Who does that affect? Our restaurant, our waiters and waitresses.
Taxes on the gratuities, right?
And yeah, exactly. And who else does that? That's also our barbers and our people in the hair industry. They rely on tips. And they make good tips. And so
last week we saw at the RNC, obviously one of the messaging points was about everyday Americans who have been impacted by, the Biden policies. And you're somebody who was impacted by the Obama policies, had enough and got engaged and got in the process and is making a significant national difference.
Yes.
And just to put a ending to the show here real fast, just so the Rally for the Republic listeners will understand the numbers of votes you're trying to move, right? We didn't get into all the specificity of it because obviously the Rally for the Republic listeners need to donate to you to help you make sure to maximize your potential. But are we talking tens of thousands of votes, hundreds of thousands of votes, or millions of votes? My goal since 2016,
Bryan, has been to get 70% of the vote to the Republican Party, the Hispanic vote. That is my goal. That is my goal. So I know that we got 30% is what we were told. Right now, polls are saying, what we're going to get, maybe possibly 50%. I want 70% of the Latino voters to come out and vote for Trump, opposed to, the Democrat Party. We need to take that vote away. And that's my goal. That's my goal.
So with that in mind, the Democrat Party thinks it's had a rebirth yesterday with 105 days left in this election. You want to make any predictions?
It's not happening. Our communities are very much awake and aware of what's going on. They are living through this, disastrous administration. Kamala has done nothing for us since she's been in office. She's a female. None of us have gotten phone calls and said, hey, we want to promote you females. No, who did give us a phone call when Trump was in office? Trump did. The White House called us and asked us to the table and wanted to hear from us. And so, you know what? No, it's not happening. We're not reversing. Listen, we've got the momentum is on our side. It's been on our side. We continue to stay on the ground. Right now, like I said, we are activated and we're trying to open up chapters in every single state now so that we have people who are actually registering voters and recruiting the poll workers for our side so that we win and we win big. And that we have someone that is a mouthpiece in their states and in their counties that is going to go and make sure that we continue this messaging to our communities, that they understand and know the detriment of why we need them to come out and vote and how we will be. See, the Hispanic population loves respect, right? Respect is given when respect is received. And so if we respect the Hispanic community and they turn out and we say, hey, if we can get you to turn out, we will get seats at the table for decades. And we will be respected. And you will now have a say-so. And this is why it is important for you to go vote. That's what we have to do, is we have to make sure that our Hispanic community is not forgotten, that they're respected, and that they know that they're going to have a seat at the table to determine the quality of life in their communities from the national level all the way down to their city level.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate you speaking to the Rally for the Republic listeners. being here at one of our special guest interviews. We've only done a few, and I really am grateful that you've made the time to share your insights with us, because I don't think enough of the mainstream media is coming to you and people like you who have real insights into what's happening in this country by talking to people, not just through pollsters.
Yeah.
So thank you, Bianca Gracia, Latinos for America First. Everybody should help you continue to make a difference in this country, and I hope my listeners will do that for you.
That's right. LatinosForAmericaFirst.com, and they can follow me on any of my social media platforms at Bianca for Texas.
Thank you, Bianca. Have a great day.
Thank you, Bryan. God bless you.
God bless you. God bless America.
Absolutely.
Thank you for joining us on Rally for the Republic, where we are fighting for America's future. Visit 1776coalition.com. Rally for the Republic podcast is available on Spotify, Amazon, Apple, and Google Podcasts. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and download. Join Bryan Rudnick next time as we continue to fight for the American way of life and challenge the hypocrisy. This is Rally for the Republic.